Hola, buenos días, soy Nico.
In my comments calling me a self-hating gay, I have a question for you. So what do I do as a parent that's raising a child in a gay household? And if I allowed him to see me kissing and having affection with another man, since y'all feel like that's so important, what do you do when that little boy that has seen you kiss a man in the mouth and hold his hand and do all that cuddle lovey-dovey shit? What do you do when your little boy goes over to somebody else's house and he does it because he thinks that it's okay when it's really not? And now somebody want to harm my baby, or they whooping on him or mistreating him because they're calling him gay. What do you do then? When do y'all don't get it through y'all head that it's just not okay? And it's a time and a place. That doesn't make me a self-hating gay. That does not make me not love myself. This gay ain't that important to the point where my kid has to see it. What about his well-being? Huh? That's my question for y'all that's always in my comments asking me or telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing. Why is this gay that important? Huh?
And today we're here for another wonderful week's worth of content. Well, yes, and I'm here with my C4 energy drink, Nico. I am back to at least 2 pre-workouts a day, but I at least space them out, like one in the morning when I wake up and then one before I go to the gym. So my heart should be fine. Now, it's bad that I keep starting these videos off with like distressing medical information about me, but that's not what you're here for. Today, it's all off. Let me start over again. If you like this kind of content, make sure to follow me on patreon.com/Nicosaesthetics for more exclusive videos, weekly live streams, and be a part of the live streams where we have multifaceted conversations with a varied panel depending on the week. If that sounds interesting to you, definitely tune in. I was actually wearing a crop top and sweatpants, but I went outside to get that pre-workout, so now I'm like cold. But let's get on to the actual story. Seeing as how it's Nico's quick chat, we don't do the fluff. Today we're here to talk about why gay people should not be parents. Nico! That's not the conversation we're really having. I mean, it's going to be surrounding it. But today we're going to be talking about 2 stories that I've had saved for over like 6 months to a year. Nico, one of these is back from like May 2024, and the other one is a bit more recent, but still way in the back. It's just I had more pressing matters than to basically address gay people's internalized homophobia and the fear of raising kids. So we're going to be starting off with Bambino Talks, and then I'll slide in the other person because it kind of adds into a story that I have from my own childhood. Basically, where Bambino Talks came online to express how he doesn't feel comfortable being gay in front of his son. He basically doesn't feel comfortable having a man around at home. He doesn't feel comfortable being emotional and or intimate around his child, and fears that someday his child will mimic these actions he's doing to another man in front of somebody who is homophobic, and they will harm his child. He was basically double downing and reaffirming that this gay stuff is not that important, that it has to be exposed to children. And of course, heterosexual people rallied behind him to basically come and say, I appreciate his awareness. And in my head, I'm thinking, what is his awareness? Because people started to quote tweet the tweet, basically going, his awareness is basically saying, we hate gay people and kids should not be seeing being gay as an alternative. Or people basically saying it's quite simple to just easily teach your kid about boundaries. Seeing as how when I was growing up, I saw my mom and dad kiss, I saw my grandparents kiss, I saw my uncle and their girlfriends kiss, but that never told me that as a child I have to go and kiss other people, because I was always alerted that that is reserved for intimate moments between people of age, like adults. You shouldn't be kissing people as a child.
I wanted to add in that when I was a child, if I would go to someone's home, my parents would call. They would make sure that they know whose house I'm going to. So the theoretical, oh, what if I send my child to somebody's house and they beat on him? Girl, as a parent, you're supposed to pre-check this. You're supposed to make sure your child is going somewhere safe. You're supposed to know where your child is at. So instead of going, oh my God, what if my child emulates me having affection for my partner in somebody else's home and they get beat on? Why would you allow your child to go to a stranger's home that you don't know if they're safe in?
So this also doubles down on the gay people that were growing up, basically saying, I grew up in heterosexual households. I grew up watching heterosexual couples on TV because there was no gay representation. And I did not go around randomly kissing people because I know awareness and I know personal boundaries. So this was an interesting conversation for me because he continued to double down and basically say,
know who need to hear this, but we fight for acceptance, not agreeance. Billy Porter, get your bitch down off Elmo dancing in some mother in a dress on my son TV. This is what I'm talking about when I say y'all taking it too far and it's a place and a time. Billy Porter could have been himself, a gay black man with a suit on Elmo, singing and dancing. That would have been fine with me. But you have on heels and a gown. We get it. But to shove it down people's throat and feel as though that is what people have to accept, y'all is crazy. It's men out here who don't want no man making his sandwich with no beard and no mustache and no lashes and no long stiletto inch nails like a. And you have to respect that. It's fathers like me who don't want to see Billy Porter bouncing in no heels and no mother gown. I don't want my son to see that. It ain't got nothing to do with me being self-hating. That ain't what boys supposed to see, period, point blank, .com.
he also then went on a rant about Billy Porter. Nico, who is Billy Porter? I personally don't care for Billy Porter. This isn't a masculine versus feminine thing. I just think he's a bit tacky, and I believe that he does things for attention, such as I believe he kissed some Republican's hand during an inauguration, some politician, or I will even say his gowns, his beautiful gowns that he's wearing, that this man said he doesn't want his child to see Billy Porter in a gown and heels on Elmo. I personally don't have anything against gowns. I go out to the club, there are drag queens, I see trans women, I see trans people existing. I have no issue with seeing somebody who identifies as something else in the clothing that they want to be in. My only issue with Billy Porter is that the clothing is tacky. Nico, his clothing choices are very tacky. The only time he's ever served was at that little curtain thing at the awards show, if I'm being quite honest. But that's another thing. Being afraid that your child will see that alternative ways of living are valid options of ways of living is internalized homophobia, because at the end of the day, when your child is old enough to be their own sentient person, it doesn't matter what you agree with. It doesn't matter what you believe. They are their own person and they are allowed to be their person. So for him in particular, I've heard this argument time and time before. I'm okay with you being gay, just don't be gay in front of me. I'm okay with you being gay, just don't be gay in front of my kids. I'm okay with you being gay, blase, blase, blase. But if it's to the point where you cannot live as who you truly are in your own home because you're so terrified of the things that have been done to you being done to your own child, meanwhile, you could just teach them boundaries, to be a better person, to be alert of their surroundings, to understand that homophobia is hate, that is not govern what actually happens in reality, you shouldn't have kids. Because this also goes into a conversation about another woman that came out and said, my son can play with Barbies, but if he do, he gonna do it in foster care. Meanwhile, this person is a whole stud. Nico, what do you mean? This is a stud, meaning a lesbian that is masculine with dreads and tatted up and in jerseys. And she's saying that if her son ever picked up a Barbie doll, he would be put into foster care. And that's a story that's similar to what I went through. I don't usually talk about my life on this channel, but as a child, I experienced homophobia. I experienced pushback for being who I was. So I remember I grew up with an older sister, and I would sometimes play with her dolls. She had Bratz dolls, not Barbies. But my mom would notice I would be making them fight because I will turn anything into an action figure. Nico, even at 28, I will pick up stuff and just be like, boom, 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 because I'm an overgrown child, if I'm being quite honest. So I remember one time she was on the phone with my dad, and she was like, oh, Nico's just playing right now. And my dad was like, oh, what he playing with? And she said, oh, he's playing with his sister's Bratz dolls, but he's making them fight. And my dad went off. And I remember that was one of the earliest memories I had of my dad being slightly homophobic. And it's so interesting because once I was a teen and I fully identified as bisexual, my dad was the one that was more accepting. But I believe it's because back then when I was a child, gay really, really wasn't okay. Because I think I talked about this on this channel, how I was in high school when gay marriage got legalized and gay began to be more widely accepted. But back then it was just a complete taboo, especially in the Black and brown communities. So I remember he threatened to whip me because I was making two dolls fight. And that's my thing. I'm not gonna try to like lean on the homophobe scale and be like, oh well, maybe if I was just playing dress up with them. But it's the principle of you see a child playing with toys and you immediately want to react with violence to correct that behavior. It's terrifying. Meanwhile, you could just alert your child, hey, these toys, they're toys, but at the end of the day, they are made for girls and you might get some odd looks for playing with them. I would have preferred that rather than, oh, I'm going to hit you if you pick up those toys again. Because yes, it's still alerting me that homophobia exists. Yes, it's still alerting me that dangers exist outside of the home that I'm growing up in. But it allows me to know that first and foremost, that you are a security, you are a support network for me. You are looking out for my safety rather than basically shrouding me in this veil of, oh, this just doesn't exist, even though that's who you are as a person. So once again, I hope this conversation made sense. I hope me opening up also added some weight to the story, but I genuinely feel that gay people that feel like they cannot be gay in their own homes in fears of influencing their children's sexuality, they just should not have children. Because if you are to the point that you can't even fully accept yourself and you aren't prepared to teach your children about boundaries or what's acceptable in public and what's to do and not to do with strangers, you should not have children. You are not in a position to be able to raise a child. And I'm one of those people, we don't have to fully discuss sex. We don't have to fully discuss identities with children. But if that's the case, you need to keep it across the board. They don't need to know about boyfriends and girlfriends. They don't need to know about husbands and wives. They don't need to know about going steady, holding hands, kissing until they are of age if you're going to keep it as a sexuality block. Because if your children can watch romance and action movies with you where there's a 40-year-old man with a 20-year-old bombshell and they're kissing and going on romantic dates and flying around saving the world, why can't he do that with two men? Why can't he do that with two women? Because I remember another early memory I have, oh, this is all coming back to me, was when I was watching Glee. Because I was a Gleek for the sole fact that was representation. Yes, it was of a white and a white Filipino man, but it was still queer representation. I remember the first time I saw Blaine and Chris Colfer, I think his name on the show was Kurt, kiss. And my family went, ew, because I was watching in the living room TV. And I said, I think that's beautiful. And I got so much anger and pushback from my own family for standing up and saying, I'm not disgusted by two men kissing. As a teenager, it was alarming. It was alarming. Because there are certain times in my childhood where I felt danger, but actively standing up and saying, no, this is acceptable. No, this is normal. No, I'm not going to cringe and disgust because two people that, let's say I'm not attracted to, or two people that identify as something that I don't kiss, that is still a valid form of love. That is not something I'm going to shy away from or shy my kids away from because of your own personal insecurities. But with that, I'm done ranting and I'll leave the conversation up to y'all. How do y'all feel about queer people choosing to have children but hiding their queer identities and anything queer related out of fear that it will influence their child's sexuality and or make them receive the same homophobia that a lot of us have received growing up? Do you believe it's better that queer people that are just not secure in themselves and their identity should not have children? I mean, because it would be the easiest equation rather than raising a child for 18 years and absolving yourself of the freedom and liberty of experiencing intimacy and or a relationship for the sole fact that, oh, I can't let my child see me be gay, even though you got a whole purse in your mouth. Nico, that's another thing. It's like, as studs, as highly femme gay men, how are you afraid of your child noticing gay relationships and gay dynamics when you are clearly gay? As in, like, you are going to be treated by the outside world differently regardless. Your child will pick up that your mannerisms, that your form of speech, that your physical identity is different from the day-to-day people they come across, but you draw the line at intimacy and kissing somebody. That's what blows me about the situation, because a stud, You're not conforming to gender dynamics. As a gay man with a purse in your mouth, you are not conforming to gender dynamics. Once again, there's nothing wrong with, there are certain words I can't say on YouTube, accent, an accent, but a gay accent, let me put it that way. You know what I'm trying to say. But it's the fact that, okay, I can have this gay accent, I can be hyper flamboyant, I can be hyper feminine, but my child can't see me be with another man. I don't get it. Maybe it's because it's like mental gymnastics trying to just get to this point in general. But before I continue ranting, I want to hear your opinions down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Boop.